All right, welcome back to Less Lethal Contingencies. Alan here. So today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to do some further modification of my son's TR68 by Umarex. Okay, this is the rebranded, used to be known as the HDR, if I'm not mistaken, HDR68, and it's been rebranded as the TR68, Tactical Revolver, is what I believe it stands for. Some people call it a training revolver. Can be used in training, I suppose, but it's known as the TR68 for Tactical Revolver. And today what we're going to be doing is a barrel upgrade. Okay, in a previous video we modified the marker so that we could put a rear ASA on it by ZRAM. Okay, and yeah, this way we could shoot high pressure air. We could put an air bottle on the back. Today we're going to be replacing that factory barrel with what we have here, a tuning barrel in TR68 or HDR68 tuning barrel. Okay, it's got the anti-rotation, anti-spin nub on it here, right? And it comes with a new barrel spring, but essentially the big thing is it's got a threaded end. This way we can also add the tuning barrel extension on here as well, okay, to increase the barrel length, or if you wanted to add any additional barrel extensions and or accessories like muzzle brakes, that sort of thing, you could do that. Okay, this particular tuning barrel that I picked up, I was concerned initially that it was going to be 682 because that's what it was advertised as, but thankfully this is a steel ball bearing I have that actually measures perfectly and precisely to 685. Okay, and it goes down this barrel perfectly. Perfect bore match for 685. So this barrel is going to work fantastic with 684, the ART, AR Tactical S-type shaped ammunition that I've been using with the factory barrel, which is a 684, will go down this barrel perfectly as well. It'll be bore matched. So I'm very excited about that. Okay, I got this one on eBay, I think through Riot Ball. Paid about 62 bucks plus tax plus shipping. For this unit, came with a thread protector in case you don't want to run the extender. So you got a 3 pieces thread protector, new barrel spring on here, and the extension. Okay, so that is what we're going to be doing here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove, you need a Torx 10 to remove the sight, these two Torx screws here, or star screws, which is the sight mount. Okay, and then it's a 2.5 Phillips screwdriver bit for these small screws. Okay, to speed up this video, I am going to pause it, remove that stuff, and take this first half, or this upper half of the clamshell off of the gun, and then when I'm done with that, I'll be right back to go over the rest of the actual barrel replacement process. Okay, be right back. All right, we're back. So with all 12 screws released, I'm just leaving them sitting in the upper clamshell. You can either remove them, put them on a magnetic strip somewhere to keep them from losing them, and the two T10 Torx screws released from the sight, the rear sight assembly. Okay, at this side, we're just going to simply lift off this half, right? Keeping the screws in place so you don't lose any. And we're just going to put this off to the side here. Okay. All right. And what we have left is we have our drum axle and drum axle spring in here, and we have our factory barrel. Okay. Also, little fiber optic. This piece here, a little fiber optic front sight. Just be careful for that. It may pop out. You'll have to make sure that's back in there before you put the other side of the clamshell back on. All right, so I don't believe we'll have to mess with the drum axle and drum axle spring in this particular case, since we're not removing the inner assembly. We're just going to carefully push back on the barrel spring and just, now the spring might, and just carefully work the barrel out. There we go. Okay. So there's your factory barrel. Curious what size that is. Ooh, a little tight. So actually the factory barrel is a little tighter than the replacement tuning barrel that I have. Yeah, so 685 rounds. Not quite. Looks like 684 is all you're going to get out of the factory there. All right. Whoop. Okay. So that is that. This is the factory. If I had to guess, maybe it's a 686 at the largest, but really thinking it's probably a little smaller than that. So, yeah, so there's your factory barrel. And as you can see, this is your tuning barrel. So it's a little bit longer because you got the threaded end, right? And then of course you got this anti-rotation piece here that'll allow you to screw accessories onto the end and the extension without it spinning endlessly on you. Okay, so it came with a new barrel spring, but if you didn't have a new barrel spring, you could probably reuse the one on your factory barrel. All right, so should be as easy as putting this in here, making sure it goes into this barrel cover collar, and not sure which way this anti-rotation piece is supposed to go, though. Maybe it just goes bottom down. Let's see. Actually, it looks like that's what it does. Maybe. Not quite sure. Actually, this sight's going to keep dropping on me, so let me put that there. All right. I don't see any particular spot for it, but I guess it can go that way. So you just need to pay attention to orienting the anti-rotation piece on here. And let me see how this is going to work. Yeah. I don't know if I can put it down facing. It feels like it's pushing against the clamshell that way. So I guess it's got to go this way, and then maybe you just turn it one way or another. All right, that's what I'm going to go with. First time installing an HDR or TR68 tuning barrel in one of these. I've done them in my TR50. All right, so now with the spring, just make sure that it sits behind, okay, right in behind this plastic lip here. Okay, that's going to keep your barrel, proper tension on your barrel so that it can come in and out and float properly. Okay, that's really important to making a good seal against the magazine, the cylinder mag. Okay, so make sure that that's good like that. And yeah, I'm going to see which way, with it straight up and down like that, maybe there's room on the other side of this clamshell. I don't want to flip it because I got the screws hanging in there. But let me see. If not, I'll just turn it one way or the other until it sits down. All right, so as long as you didn't disturb anything with the axle rod here, axle rod spring, drum axle spring, drum axle here, and definitely make sure that that's not loaded up, that spring. Make sure it's closed, magazine removed, and it's closed. before you even unscrew the screws on this gun. All right, so we know that the spring's in place properly. My front fiber optic sight. Let's see if I can snap it in on this side maybe instead. I know it held last time better on one side than the other. I think it was this side, yeah. Maybe not. Maybe it didn't make much of a difference. Hard to say. All right, we'll see if it stays in there. All right, so I have that anti-rotation piece sitting straight up and down. I'm gonna try it first like that, but I'm thinking I'm probably gonna have to turn it. Yeah, it feels like it's sitting up on that. So I'm just gonna turn it until it drops down. Yeah, so that's, okay, so it drops down right about there. And let's make sure the clamshell closes with that. That front sight. Knew that front sight, they could have designed that better. They should have just made it so that it was just tapped it off with a drift pin or something. All right. Yeah. You know, I'm not going to worry about that sight right now because I got bigger things to worry about. Need to make sure that this barrel's still going to float. And which way does this go? Oh, it locks in like that. Okay. All right. That should make a big difference. Okay. So that's indeed how you do it. There's just enough clearance there. Hopefully you can see this, guys. But that anti-rotation piece, you're just going to, once you slide the barrel in there, just turn the whole barrel clockwise, okay, until this anti-rotation piece just fits right in there like that. Okay, right in the top, near the weaver rail. Okay. Hopefully you see that. That should make a difference. I'm going to drop this fiber optic sight back in here and hope this little bugger stays. All right. Now I'm going to drop this down. Now with that set up that way, everything's still together. The barrel spring, make sure your barrel spring's still on. Now we're just going to drop. Yeah, much better. Okay, we just drop it together. And that's it. All right, so I'm going to tighten up these screws and put this back on, and I'll be right back to have some finishing thoughts on this procedure. Be right back. All right, I'm back here. Okay, so after we have the 12 Phillips 2.5 screws reinstalled, snugged up nice, check, make sure there's no openings anywhere in the clamshell. Everything looks good. Okay, and the two T10 Torx screws holding on the rear sight assembly, that's been in place. Just check it over really good. Make sure everything looks good there. You can put that back in. Okay, everything looks good. Yeah, just make sure that everything still works. Of course, you should have tried this before putting the clamshell back together. Make sure your barrel, you can pull in and out of it. All right, turn it this way. That anti-rotation piece locked in nicely up. It was right up in here, kind of fit right into the groove. So I put the barrel in and then I rotated it until it snapped into place. And then again, making sure your barrel floats, okay? So it can make a proper seal on the cylinder magazine. It looks good there. So this came with a thread protector, finishing piece. If you don't want to run the extension, you want to keep it shorter, then you have that. You can screw that on. That just kind of completes the look, little cosmetic piece. Don't forget, if your front fiber optic sight falls out, make sure you got that back into place as you reassemble your clamshell. Don't want to forget to mention that. Mine kept falling out. Okay, so that's what this piece is for. Then you have your extension. Let's see, how long is this extension? It's just under 4 inches. Okay, just under 4 inches. The barrel itself was, oop, everything's sticking to it. So the factory barrel came in at about 6.5 inches, the factory barrel. So this one's probably another, I don't know, 5/8 of an inch longer because of the threads. So yeah, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 inches now. So instead of 6.5, we're probably at 7 inch long, and then you add another almost 4 inches to it. All right, now you're up to what? About 11 inches. So with this extension on here, we'll put that on, see what it looks like. What can be helpful sometimes is to run an O-ring. Sometimes I'll run an O-ring in there just to kind of keep this from loosening up. But before I do that, I want to make sure that everything still rotates in and out. Yeah. That looks pretty nice. Ooh, does make it a little long, so now you got 11-inch barrel, right? So rotates in good. You don't want to over tighten this too far because it will pull. The more you tighten this up, of course, hopefully it stops. It does stop. Okay. I take that back. It looks like it bottoms out, which is good. That's a nice design. You can see it bottoms out right here, so it's not going to keep screwing on further, because if it had, it would slowly stop pulling this barrel out, and then your cylinder magazine would be really, really loose. It'd kind of free spin and wouldn't function properly. That looks fantastic, though. I can't complain for 62 bucks on eBay, right? That's going to run all the 6.85 and 6.84 ammunition, and shaped ammunition is going to work perfectly in the barrel. Yeah, so that's the modification, guys. It's pretty easy. I mean, if you can turn a couple screws and you got a T10 Torx screw bit, you can carefully take this off, and whether you have any other mods or not, this is the simplest mod you can do to one of these is to add a longer barrel, right? To add a tuning barrel where you can take an extension on and off. That's going to give you a pretty decent increase in power, feet per second. Adding a rear ASA, whether you want to run it plugged just for more CO2 expansion to increase power, or whether you want to run high pressure air through the back at some point. Adding this is takes a little bit more skill level to do this. You got to be handy with a drill, uni-bit. You got to drill out the hole back there. So a little higher experience level for that. But far as putting a barrel on, you saw what I did. I mean, if you can unscrew the screws and take it out, it's pretty easy. It's the one thing that almost everybody can do if they want to add power to one of their less lethal markers is, in this particular case anyways, is to replace the barrel. Of course, in some of the other less lethal markers, such as the Intrabuster Gen 2 or the Pistelli X68, or even easier, right? Those barrels screw in and out. So, I mean, first thing you can do if you want to add power would be to, barrel upgrade. Longer barrel, or at least a barrel that has threaded ends, so that later if you want to add extensions or accessories, you can. So anyways, this is Alan, and hopefully you find this video useful. I know my son's going to be excited to have this longer barrel, tuning barrel in there. And yeah, hopefully you found the video useful. Leave a comment if you care to. And yeah, next thing we'll be doing is first shots video a little bit later, and see what feet per second increases we get out of this tuning barrel. All right, thanks for watching. Peace out.